Hi everyone, this is Hoodie Angel Brandon. Now, it's no secret, but I absolutely adore female Morgan. She's my favorite character in all of Fire Emblem. So when she got into Heroes, I knew that I had to dedicate all my resources into making her my best character. With that said, she tends to be generally regarded as outclassed compared to her fellow Blue Tome Flyer units. Ninian has the incredible dance as a support option, and Summer Corrin has better speed to more effectively utilize Blade Tome, so that seemingly leaves Morgan in a sort of awkward spot. But she does have some things going for her. She has better res to more effectively utilize ploys, which can, like Ninian, help her support her teammates, and while her speed is lower than Corrin's, her offensive stat line is still by no means terrible, so offensive sets are still on the table. I would say that Morgan's greatest strength is her flexibility. So today we're going to be looking at 4 different builds Morgan can utilize to highlight her flexibility. Now, one thing to bear in mind before we get started is that my Morgan is plus 10 and summoner support. She also has a plus speed boon and a minus HP bane, so based off of your stats, whether or not you have her summoner supported and your level of mergeability, your results with these builds might vary a little. But they should still all be able to put in a decent amount of work based on your team support and so on. First up is the very standard base kit Morgan. This is how she comes built out of the box and is the most budget friendly of the options we'll see today. This set excels at baiting mages and either killing them on the counterattack or drawing them into range so that your other units can safely take them out without risking ruining your arena run. Her tome is the standard Blar Serpent, which has the awesome distant defense built into it, improving her magic soak. Mine is refined for speed, but you can either go defense or resistance based off of your boon and bane and what you're trying to do with her. Reposition is standard and is flexible based off of what your team needs for support. Drawback is another excellent option, or if you need to improve your arena score, dual rallies can work as well. Her natural iceberg is a great choice to make use of her res and give a little bit of extra oomph to punch through enemies while keeping the cooldown count reasonable. If you want a lower cooldown count, Moonbow is another great option, as is Glacies if you need a bit more punch. Her innate mirror stance helps cushion magical attacks thrown at her and gives her a little bit of an extra kick when she's hitting them on the counterattack. If you want to change it up, there are a variety of other options for the A slot. Fury is as always a good choice on her, as is Death Blow if you want a little bit of a more offensive approach. You can also run something like Darting Blow to improve her speed, or even Mirror Strike if you want something like Mirror Stance but a bit more offensively oriented, giving her a bit more of a dual phase setup. Her B slot is likewise flexible. Guard is what she comes with and is a great choice to help protect her from specials that would cut through her res like Moonbow on Reinhardt. But she can run a variety of other things in the B slot, most notably Quick Riposte, which is what I have in her Seal slot. If you want a more offensively oriented Morgan, you can also run something like a Breaker, specifically Sword Breaker, to help her punch through super fast sword units. C is, as with everyone, fairly flexible. Her attack play is a great choice to help lessen damage incoming, as well as provide general team support. With her great res, any of the other ploys are also great choices on her. Of course, there's also the standard drives, hones, smokes, and tactics, among other options. Finally, for her Seal slot, as with most things on this set, it's up to personal preference. Quick Riposte though, however, gets special mention, especially if you're not running it in the B slot. While my Morgan is geared to increase her speed, not everyone will opt to take this route. And while her attack is good, it can be a little lacking sometimes, failing to kill units. Quick Riposte helps with this by guaranteeing a follow-up attack, and usually that second attack will be enough to kill. Other options include something like Distant Defense, or even just a flat speed plus 3 seal. You can also run an additional ploy here, like Def Ploy to soften up the enemies for Morgan's teammates, or Res Ploy to increase Morgan's attack. Overall, I'd say this is the build that functions best independently. While this build doesn't need team support, it of course appreciates it like most units. One big weakness of this particular set though is it suffers from mages being comparatively rare compared to melee units in high tier arena. But it's a cheap, easy set to use out of the box with minimal investment, good flexibility, and it's not IV dependent. Next up is the standard build that just about every mage can run, particularly those that have access to emblem buffs. It's everyone's favorite Blade Tome. This build is by nature the one that requires the most team support to function. Flyer buffs or tactics work best, but you can get by with a simple hone if you're on a budget. This is a more player phase oriented build, but of course it's very useful, especially for clearing certain content like chain challenges or legendary hero battles. This is a fairly cookie cutter build with Blade Tome, of course, reposition, Moonbow to help with the Blade Tome's added cooldown count. Fury is my personal A slot choice, but there are a variety of others. Darting Blow, Death Blow, Life and Death, and Swift Sparrow can all work well, but I prefer Fury because it has synergy with Desperation. With Desperation, you can immediately perform follow-up attack, which is very helpful against the units that have distant counter, either in their weapons or on their A slot. Finally, of course, the C and Seal slot are both flexible. I run Attack Ploy to help her bulk and support the team, and Res Ploy makes her Blade Tome punch through enemies' resistance just a little bit better. Overall, this is a very standard kit that works well, especially on Flyer Emblem. Again, team support is key, but if you can provide it, Morgan can perform this role quite well. Not quite as well as Summer Corrin, but as you can see from her stats, she's still nothing to sneeze at, as this is still her before buffs. These first two builds have been the more budget-friendly options or low investment. The next two we'll be looking at are very premium builds that require high-end fodder and are more gimmicky in nature. You probably won't want to invest in them, but they're interesting, so I thought I'd show them anyway. This next build is one I've admittedly not been able to actually try myself due to a lack of fodder, but is one that I'm going to be building in the future. That is, of course, Triple Distant Defense Morgan. Now, I have a double distant defense Xander that works actually very well, despite his low res, but what happens if we put triple distant defense on a unit that already has an amazing res stat? Well, we get a Glacies that will make the Ice Age look like a joke. With 39 base res and an additional 18 when initiated upon, that's absolutely no joke. That's not even counting the fact that we can add other things onto that, whether from refining our Blar Serpent Tome for res, or stacking res buffs from her allies. Now, this is admittedly a rather gimmicky set, but the person who originally suggested this build to me, which was Luden's Echo on Reddit, I hope I pronounced that correctly, actually did build this set, and after running some tests on the duel simulator, she can actually survive archers, believe it or not, without Iot's shield. Now, she can't tank all of them, but the fact that she can tank a good number of them is actually rather amusing. I don't know how good this will actually be in practice, as again, I haven't had the chance to test it myself, but I am looking forward to it. Of course, we have Blar Serpent for the standard distant defense effect. I refined mine for speed just because with this much res, refining for res is overkill, but defense is another option just to give you a little bit more leeway against archers. I like speed though, just because that stat is pretty much always relevant. Glacies, of course, if we're going for overkill on res, we might as well go all the way with the strongest res-based special, but Iceberg is probably a bit more realistic just for the lowered cooldown count to fire off those icebergs a bit more frequently. Guard again is very helpful for dealing with specials that could pierce through her massive res. Luden's Echo originally ran Quick Riposte on their build because of their Morgan having a minus speed nature, but with mine having plus speed, that seemed rather unnecessary. So I took Guard instead. Luden's Echo also ran Res Ploy to help with those nukes, I would assume, but I chose Attack Ploy just for adding up a little bit of extra defense by debuffing the enemy's offense. Overall, this is a rather gimmicky, memey build, but it's one that looks a lot of fun to actually try.
A blow to the head from a big tome is no joke, let me tell you.
Finally is perhaps my favorite build of the ones I'm showing today, and that is Close Counter Morgan. As Morgan so eloquently put it, A blow to the head from a big tome is absolutely no joke, and with this build, Morgan is able to just hit her enemies in the head with one of her tomes. While seemingly a terrible idea on paper thanks to Morgan's rather low defenses, even at plus 10 only barely scraping past 20, it's surprisingly effective in practice. This was a build that I was thinking about as a gimmick, but was on the fence about until I talked to another Reddit user, Chuni-chan, who suggested that I try it out. And I have to say I've actually really enjoyed the results. This build utilizes Blar Owl and, similar to Blade Tome, really likes to have allies nearby supporting her. And of course the star of the show here is Close Counter. I'll go into the other skills in a moment. Now this is a build that I absolutely recommend using merges for. Let's run the math real quick. Morgan has 16 base defense at neutral. Add 4 for her plus 10 merges, and that puts her at 20. An additional 2 from summoner support puts her at 22. If we add just one adjacent ally next to her, that gives an extra 2 points, putting her at 24, and if that happens to be her ally support, in this case Soleil, that's another 2, putting her at 26. Add an extra 6 from something like Death Tactic, which is very easy to obtain thanks to it being a seal, or of course Fortify Flyers and a Flyer emblem, and that puts her at 32 defense, with just a single ally standing next to her. That's not even counting other allies or something like Drive Defense support, which is actually pretty usable. Now 32 defense certainly isn't turning her into the world's most amazing physical wall, but it worked, especially considering most of the time tanking one enemy in a match will be all that she really needs to do. Obviously your goal really shouldn't be to force her into taking physical attacks, but having the option to take one and then fire off a counterattack is wonderful. And this set has the added benefit of scoring rather well in Arena thanks to Close Counter. And with high level Arena having a lot more melee units, this is really nice. Aether adds to your Arena score and has the added bonus of both increasing her damage output and giving her a little bit of self-sustain. Guard again helps her defend against specials, especially ones coming from high tier red threats like Aira or Zelgius. Finally are attack and res ploy, but those are as always very flexible. I like having attack ploy because it performs double duty, both weakening incoming magic attacks and the now much more important physical attacks, and res ploy again gives Morgan just a little bit of extra punch, though close defense would be another great option, but I'm currently running that on my Soleil. This set is actually surprisingly more effective than it would seem on paper, having tanked even things like plus 10 FEH, who has adaptive damage and triangle advantage on her. This is a build that is a lot of fun, but again probably not worth it unless you're just a die-hard Morgan fan. So there you have it, 4 different builds for Morgan that showcase her flexibility. 2 of them are very budget options, and 2 much more premium and gimmicky, but all of them a lot of fun to use. If you have any ideas for Morgan builds of your own, let me know in the comments down below. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, this is Hoodie Angel Brandon, signing out.